All right, you want to lose 30 pounds in 90 days? Yeah, I bet. Who doesn't? You want to do it, and you want it to be extremely easy. Of course. I can do this. I can make this happen. I can even show you. But the reality is, you know you, and I have a feeling I know you too. But anyway, welcome to Walk Talk Vent. Let's do this.
Hi guys, welcome back. Listen, I have really exciting news. Call Me Allie, who we saw a couple weeks back ago on this very show, has decided to take on our 90-day challenge with us. Isn't that great? So I'm going to be quiet and we're going to listen to what she has to say about the challenge.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Going for a walk today, starting a new challenge. Somebody presented to me for weight loss, and I told them that I would document that via lives, so that's what I'm doing. This is my husband behind me, and my youngest up there. My oldest is in front of me in the stroller. Sorry that this is bumpy. I'm still trying to figure out how to film this stuff. So, basic premise behind what's going on is I have a fellow YouTuber who goes by the name of Walk Talk Vent on YouTube. That's his channel. And he presented a challenge to his followers or subscribers, I suppose is the word you go with, that you're basically supposed to do 3 different steps every day. And in the process of doing those things, you should lose about 30 pounds in 90 days, which I think is a fairly realistic amount of weight to lose in that span of time. And it is achievable. So I wouldn't be shocked if people actually did achieve that through the process of doing this challenge. And I told him that I would do the challenge too and give him, some like video documentation of how it's going for me and the results that I'm getting. Now, if you've watched my channel at all, you probably know that I do some weight loss videos. I have discovered that most of the people who are trying to make weight loss content have no clue what they're talking about.
Including me, but that's what makes it so much fun.
And the reason for that primarily centers around most of them have never had to lose weight. So they don't know what issues I'm facing and what issues you're facing. So it's not necessarily helpful as far as, creating better health is concerned, because they can't help you. They can't tell you how to work past the mental problem points that you come across. So that's primarily what I focus on in my channel, in my weight loss section, is how to get your brain right. Because realistically, we all already know how to lose weight. We just struggle with being able to actually stick with it and do those things and be able to fight past our cravings and be able to deal with this mental obsession with food that tends to come about when you are doing some kind of restriction dieting. So that's where I kind of have come into this game and trying to change things up. I've come up with a program called Add-in Fitness that I'm creating content around that I think blends in well with what Walk Talk Vent talks about. His name is actually Jesse, so I probably will just refer to him as Jesse from here.
Okay, so this person here is Mommy Hasn't Showered, although she looks like she showers all the time, right? So let's talk real quick about Call Me Allie. She's going to basically be doing the 90-day challenge with us. If you're ever needing to do extra credit and you're all caught up on my stuff and you want to check out her, go check out Call Me Allie's channel. She'll be there to take walks with you as well. She's going to try to do walks live. I think walks live would be a nightmare for me at this point, right? So I'm going to wait till I'm a little bit more experienced in the game. But Mommy Hasn't Showered here is doing the cabbage soup diet. So apparently this is something that you don't necessarily do for long periods of time. She's going to be doing a 5-day challenge. Let's see how fun or lack of fun she might have had here.
So here's day 1 of my cabbage soup diet.
I'm in the grocery store right now. It's 9:42 on Tuesday. I'm going to start the cabbage soup diet. I literally thought about it this morning. Let me show you what I got so far. Cabbage, I have some jalapenos, an onion, celery, stewed tomatoes, and some bell peppers.
Water. In you go. 2 cans of stewed tomatoes. 4 stalks of celery. 5.5 pounds of cabbage. Oh my gosh.
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about my weight. I've always been 127 my whole life. I'm 5'6", and then I gave birth to my first child. I had gained 70 pounds, lost it all, got back down to 127. Had my second child like 2 years later, gained like 60 pounds, got back down to 127. Had my third child, gained like 50 or 60 pounds, and it took me a while to get back down, but I did eventually get back down. I was sitting around like 150 for a while, but then I lost a little bit more weight. Now, I had my last child 4 years ago, okay, and I gained 70 pounds, and I lost 50 by the time he was 2. But here's the kicker, okay? I breastfed him for over 3 years, okay? When I stopped, I immediately gained like 20 pounds in the next 6 months. So I'm about to get on the scale now. Today is day 1, and I believe I'm like 177, 176, something like that. My goal weight is to get down to 150, and then I'll start working out with heavy weights. And so if I get back up to 160, that's fine, but it won't be like a flabby 160. Okay, let's get on the scale.
So real quick, I don't know if you can tell, but she just has so much energy about her, right? I want you guys to check out not only Call Me Allie's channel, but I want you to check out Mommy Hasn't Showered. Lots of really cool videos. Let's take a little poll here. Who thinks she's going to smash this 5-day challenge? I think she's definitely going to smash it. Let's see.
Okay, so, oh, my feet are, my feet are so ashy. 177.9. I'm hoping to get rid of this little shelf. This is new, so I think there's hope. I'm not going to turn around because like I feel like my whole butt is out, but yeah, that's my main goal, just to get rid of this. We'll see. I will update you guys every day. Here's day 1. Let's go.
So I have that same shelf that she's describing. I feel like I got mine from my double hernia surgery, but you know, either way, I still want that to go. So that's kind of how I feel like mine looks as well. Question for you guys to put in the comments, your answers in the comments, that is. Have you guys ever tried this cabbage soup diet? Is the cabbage soup diet something that you've heard of before? Tell me your thoughts on it.
Okay, we're going to do our weigh-in for day 2 of the cabbage soup diet. Yesterday, I started out at 177.9. Looks like I'm 177.4.
Okay, so here's a little recap of how day 1 went. I'm on day 2 of the cabbage soup diet. I started out 177.9. As you can see, I'm now 177.4. Yesterday, between 12 and 8, those were the hours that I ate yesterday. I'm not doing intermittent fasting or anything like that. I had 4 bowls of the soup, right? I had 72 ounces of water. I did 1 hour of gardening. Hard gardening though, so I burned like 198 calories. I only did 57.28 in steps yesterday. It was a very light day for steps because I had my podcast. I had like 2 sips of coffee. I was very salty that I was not using creamer or anything like that. So I'm having my water for today. I have not had any coffee. It is 10 o'clock. I've already had 1 bowl of the soup. I have probably another hour of gardening to do. We have an event in our house this weekend, so I'm trying to get everything ready. I'm going to try to get to 90 ounces of water today, and I'll probably end up having like 4 or 5 bowls of the cabbage soup.
So at this point into day 2, she's had like 5 or 6 bowls of soup, right? If you include the previous day. I don't know about you, but after I have 2 bowls of boring cabbage soup, I'm done. Do you like cabbage soup?
So stay tuned, and I will keep you updated.
Today is day 3 of my cabbage soup diet, and I can't even believe that I weighed in at this. Okay, day number 3 of the cabbage soup diet. I'm about to do my weigh-in. My scale will turn on. Here we go. 174.8.
A little recap of day 2. I did about 30 minutes of gardening. It wasn't as much as I thought, and I only burned like 150 calories. I'm trying to like keep it very low because I'm not eating that many calories. I was able to drink 80 ounces of water, and I'm really proud of myself. I went to a business meeting at a restaurant, and I did not cave. I didn't eat like all of the yummy food. I was like sitting there smelling it, but I was okay. I did 6,700, like 6,714 for steps. And I almost don't even want to say this, but it's day 3 and I have not had coffee and I do not have a headache.
Quick question, only because she brought it up. She goes to this restaurant, right? She's really proud of herself because she sees all this quote unquote yummy, delicious food that she kind of fights the resistance for, right? If you're doing the walk, talk, vent plan, right, that we're all doing, and you're working on all 3 phases of it, which includes cutting out sugar, do you guys feel like your eating life is horrible, or do you guys feel like it's easing into it and it's kind of easier for you as time goes on? Just give me your thoughts on that, because I feel like every diet has a little bit of torture in it. And I feel like ours doesn't really have that torturous level. But tell me what you think, because you might think completely different.
One thing that is really weird is that I have been very sweaty, and I'm not talking about like when I'm doing the gardening. Like yesterday when I woke up and I started walking around and like just walking in my house, I was very sweaty. And then I had like another episode, like this morning, I was like very sweaty, not when I first woke up. So I don't know if that's like my body just getting rid of everything else. I'm not sure, but that's really the only bad thing that I can say. I mean, day 1 was very hard because I was really hungry and I had to go to bed early because all I was doing was thinking about food. But I'm not even thinking about food. I'm not thinking about candy. I'm not thinking about my coffee creamer. I have not gone to Starbucks still, which is huge for me. It's going really well. So stay tuned for day 4, which will be very interesting because I'm supposed to go on a field trip.
I'm going to rewind that because she's telling you something important. But I have a question for people. When you get your ear pierced there, does that hurt? Because it's here. I've had my ear pierced when I was a teenager, right? I don't wear earrings anymore, but I did as a teen. But up here in this part here, I would imagine that hurts like the dickens. Does it hurt like crazy? Let me know. And let me rewind this. I want you to hear what she's saying.
I'm not even thinking about food. I'm not thinking about candy. I'm not thinking about my coffee creamer. I have not gone to Starbucks still, which is huge for me. It's going really well. So stay tuned for day 4, which will be very interesting because I'm supposed to go on a field trip with my toddler in his class tomorrow. And so I'm going to have to take the cabbage soup with me. I'm not sure how that's going to work. It's going to be cold, but that's okay. I'm going to do it and I'm going to stick to it. I'm literally not even sure how this is possible. All right, guys, so it's day 4 of my cabbage cleanse. Yesterday, I was busier than I expected, so I ended up doing over 10,000 steps. I had to clean out my garage.
Did she do that on purpose? How did she make that happen so nicely? What a cute dog.
And I ended up burning over 700 calories, which was really, really bad. Over the next couple hours, I felt kind of disoriented just because I probably burned as many calories as I had eaten for the whole day. And so I have to admit something to you guys. I cheated. I cheated on the diet. So I had...
Okay, I thought she was going to make it. Be honest, you thought she was going to make it too. If you had a feeling she was going to fall off and you thought I was fooling you, let me know, because I was trying to fool you.
Cabbage all day. And then when my husband came home from work, we went out to dinner and I ate steamed spinach, steamed zucchini, and a piece of salmon, a small piece of salmon, but I still ate salmon. And then, are you ready for this? I had 1 scoop of caramel ribbon ice cream, which is like caramel, chocolate, and vanilla. But you know what? I still lost, which I
I don't know. I can't wrap my head around it. Now, I will tell you that I had the worst stomach ache last night. Like the worst. I was probably up for an hour in the middle of the night. My stomach was burning. I felt really bloated. And so I would not recommend doing that again. I'm back on the wagon again today. Tomorrow's my last day. I'm still very happy with my results so far. So stay tuned.
Okay, so let's be honest. Salmon, I don't blame her for breaking the cabbage. For salmon, salmon is the best, right? Listen, I got bad news though. So I thought she was going to go right back to her diet and kill it for the final day. But you know what? I think that salmon was a little too good. So if you predicted that she would cheat and end up stopping this diet, you won. Before we go to our walk, I want to have one more video. Let's check in one more time with Call Me Allie here.
So I have a friend who has a channel on YouTube. His channel name is Walk Talk Vent. His name is Jesse, and he presented a challenge where you go walking every day, basically, to lose weight. And he asked me basically if I'd be interested in joining the challenge. And I was like, hey, I can do that. Most of that stuff I'm already doing. And one of the great things about his program is he's made it really simple. So I told him that I'd basically do a live every day documenting my journey and the results that I'm getting, things like that.
Okay, I wanted to show you this half in jest. You guys know I'm not a big fan of steps, and this is kind of why. I think a person could get 10,000 steps in going side to side like this. On a serious note, because of weather, because of 2 children, because of different situations, sometimes you have to walk inside. Please don't think I'm totally against it. I just love walking outside more. I know you love walking outside more too, because let's be honest, it is awesome, right? But if you absolutely have to, walk indoors. It's super important. Never stop. Let's keep going.
Yesterday, I tried doing a video walking outside, and I had some okay results, I'd say. But there are some major challenges that I'm running into today. I did go for a walk outside earlier today. I brought both of my little girls with me, and the best way to describe that was rage-inducing. So here I am, marching, which is kind of an interesting situation to be in. But I'm thinking at this point, as far as moving forward with this challenge, that I may just bring my squishy mat outside or just march outside on the grass while my children play in the sandbox or around in the yard, because that would still get me outside and allow me to not have to deal with the screaming children quite as much as I would have otherwise. So that's just a caveat for where I am today and why I'm walking right here in place, marching.
If you end up checking out Mommy Hasn't Showered, I don't think you'll be disappointed. And if you end up checking out Call Me Allie, she's going to be doing some walks. So there's somebody that you can have a walk with in case you've watched all my stuff, right? I want you guys to know that I'm so very proud of you. Let's tackle month 2 like nobody's business. With that being said, go grab your shoes. Let's go for a walk.
Super interesting.
Hi guys, it's Jesse. Listen, if you're new to the channel, I love walking around the neighborhood and I'd like to invite you to join us. We have a few rules and here they are. Number 1, we walk every day as much as we can. Number 2, we drink water every day. Number 3, we avoid sugar every day. And rule number 4 is if you slip up on any of the first 3 rules, you simply obey the other 2. We call this the 2/3 rule, and if you follow this rule for the rest of your days, you'll have a lot more days to play around with. So thank you for joining us today on our walk. Won't you please consider joining me in this daily walk forever? Welcome to Walk Talk Vent.
Good morning, everybody. I'm hoping today is a happy hump day for everybody, but of course, you'll see this on Thursday. Yay! It's Friday Eve. Thursday is usually that first day of the week where you can kind of sniff the weekend, right? God, what are your plans for this weekend? Tell me you're going to be doing a ton of extra credit. That's what I want to hear. Guys, today I heard two fascinating stories that once again are a little sad. So if you're not really into the sad stories and you want to hear some peppy ones, let me know and I'll see if I can find some peppy ones. But you know how the news is, they very rarely share the good ones. They mostly share the not so good ones. Before I get to the story, I busted out my Max Lens mod, which is the greatest of 2020 technologies, and it only took me till 2024 to bust it out. I had this Max Lens mod, which is supposed to give you really good stability, so I don't even know if you guys can tell the difference. But if you can, maybe put some comments in the comment section. But basically it's supposed to give us a wider view, but also less shake, so more stability. So if you can tell, definitely let me know. I strategically held off on using this Max Lens mod for a month because my thinking was by holding off on using it, I could provide my channel a natural little upgrade through it. So for month 2 and on, we'll bust out and use this Max Lens mod. If it ends up being a little awkward or whatever for me, I can always change it back. I say awkward because when it's on the camera, it kind of loses its symmetry and it looks like this giant eyeball, you know, on the camera itself. Guys, you won't believe these stories, but in both of these stories, there's a good chance you already heard about them, so maybe you will believe them. But in Clark County, Ohio, one of the craziest scam stories I've ever heard in my life, and I wanted to share it with you guys. And if you're in England or Australia, there's a good chance you haven't heard this, or Sweden, there's a good chance you haven't heard this story, and you might find it fascinating, because I'm surprised it hasn't happened 1,000 times before. We have some sort of phone scam situation in Clark County, Ohio, involving an 81-year-old man named William Brock. William Brock was called multiple times throughout the day, was told that somebody was going to come to his house to pick up a package, and he needed to give them in excess of like $10,000 for bail. So we're talking, what a weird little story, right? Imagine you're 81-year-old William Brock and you're told that someone's going to be coming to your house to pick up a package, and in that package you're supposed to leave them like, I think it was $12,000 to get a relative out of jail or something involving $12,000, right? Those same scammers call an Uber driver, 61-year-old Lolitha Hall, and they send her on an errand to pick up a package from William Brock's house. William Brock, suspecting foul play or some weird situation, I guess he wasn't suspecting foul play, but he was suspecting some sort of scam or that his life might be in danger, meets Lolitha Hall when she comes to his house. He meets her with a gun, and then she's sitting there because she doesn't know what's going on. She thinks she's there to pick up a package because that's where the scammer sent her. William Brock, the 81-year-old, meanwhile, has a gun pointed at her, and as she's trying to escape back into her car, because obviously she thinks she's come to the house of a wild, crazy older guy, right? He proceeds to shoot her in the leg, and then he ended up shooting her 2 more times, and this poor lady ended up dying. When the cops and / authorities and detectives get to the house, they come to find out that William Brock and Lolitha Hall were both 2 halves of this scam story. And apparently when they traced the phone call to the scammers, apparently, I believe they said it came from Canada. So this might be one where a Canadian bad guy reached over to this side of the border in middle of America, Clark County, Ohio, and caused a lot of grief. So I don't know what's going to happen. There's probably going to be some people that want William Brock to get in trouble for this. And I don't know why he didn't just call the authorities rather than shooting this lady, right? So it's not like he's completely innocent, but at the same time, some of us might have family members that are in their 80s, and you'd like to think that that they wouldn't fall for something like this, you know? But the reality is, these are scam artists that literally caused a person's death. And I'd really love your opinion on this, because I've never heard of such a thing. I'm surprised now that this has happened, that it hasn't happened thousands of times before. And maybe it has, but we just never ever heard about it on the news. But I find it really crazy that people every single day are trying to call me, trying to get me on some Medicare scam, because for whatever reason they think that I'm a retired gentleman. And the way they attack it every day is quite impressive in a horrible way, of course. But these people will give me a dozen phone calls daily, and have done so for like literally the past couple years in a row. If you've been getting calls like crazy for the past couple years too, let me know, because what you and I represent is people around the country that are getting these calls constantly. The difference is you and I might be in our 40s or 50s where we know, hey, this person doesn't even sound like he's an American, right? You can kind of tell by their voice that they're not American. And assuming that people get the same calls that I do from people that sound like they're from India or Pakistan or somewhere non-American, right? Or non-US. And we get these calls so much, but because we're in our 40s and 50s, we kind of know to look out for these scammers. So it's like no big deal. We just hang up on them, or we try to block their call, or whatever the case might be. Now, of course, what do we find out when we block their call? They're just going to call back the next day on a different number that they're using. Apparently, they have the ability to use, you know, different numbers every time they call you. So even if you block one of them, you're still going to get calls the next day, maybe even the next hour, you know? And what makes it scary, good morning. What makes it scary is when you talk to senior citizens, especially when they get to that age where they're no longer necessarily the fastest brain on the block, right? A lot of times they can get confused, and they can get cheated out of giving up their Social Security information or giving up their credit card information. And basically they're susceptible to identity theft multiple times every single day. If you have a loved one that's in their 70s or 80s, check up on them and make sure that they're not signing up for some scam, because there's places that'll literally milk their checking accounts if you don't watch out for that. And if they don't alert you or the authorities, your parents and grandparents could literally be going broke right now to identity theft criminals out there. So let's talk a little bit, and let's see if we can get a discussion going in the comment section. What are your thoughts on this? Do you guys have any elderly family members that have been conned or scammed? Do you guys know any people your age or younger that have been scammed or conned or had any identity theft type situations occur? I think it's one of those things where I think we got to get the banks involved and find a way to make people whole when they get scammed, because I hear a lot of stories where they kind of never retrieve the person's money. And you know, I know that a lot of times people aren't supposed to give their information to strangers, and there needs to be a little accountability, but if a senior citizen is a member of your bank for the last 30 years, God, there should be some sort of safeguards, you know? If some weird company is taking 10 cents out of a person's account, because a lot of times they'll do that, right? They'll take a small little amount out of a bank account to see if it triggers anybody or if anybody notices. And then if no one notices, they'll end up taking multiple, you know, chunks out of a person's account, and they'll literally take them down to zero on their account balances. There needs to be a way where the bank can safeguard that, because otherwise it goes back to, what's the point of having a bank?
You know, when we had banks in the Wild West days, I assume people felt like their money was safe in the bank compared to in their own hands, right? But when all of a sudden we make it where cyber criminals and identity thieves can just get it and take it and nothing happens to them and you lose everything, well, my goodness, I wouldn't even want to be a part of that bank anymore. We're going to make it where old people have to give their money to their kids just so that they don't lose it. And that's really unfortunate. So I just can't believe that there's nothing that we can ever seem to do about it to take care of things and protect our seniors. And heck, protect me and you as well. I mean, these scammers find ways to get information, and it just seems really kind of crappy that nothing ever seems to happen to them. I would love to hear of scammers getting caught and just getting the book thrown at them. Gosh, I think the problem with our country is we forgive the bad guys, and in doing so, we completely forget about the victims. And gosh, I think we should change our way of thinking. I think we should be pro-victim and anti-criminal, even if it's from this day forward. I just think that that's how we should start viewing things. So check out this. That was only one of 2 fascinating stories I heard. Did you guys know that over the past year or so, there have been 1,300 arrests in New York State, particularly the 5 boroughs areas around the main city of New York City? There have been 1,300 arrests involving crimes and criminals on scooters. And apparently there were 2 scooters with 4 criminals on it, 2 of which had shooters at the back of the scooter. So imagine the front guys driving and the 2 guys on the back of these 2 scooters are shooting guns. 4 men shot, 1 person died. The person that died was Miguel Duneo. It was in the Mount Eden section of the Bronx, right? But just to hear that they've had 1,300 arrests over the past, I don't know if it said 6 months or a year, but either way, that's a lot of arrests. And then they have a spokesperson come on and say how they've removed these 1,300 scooters from, the area over the past year. And it just sounded like just another excuse, right? Because they were talking to people and people were like, hey, this part of the neighborhood has very little police presence. We're constantly asking for a police presence. We never get it. And it's just back to the same old, same old. It seems like with California and New York, I don't even know the beauty of living in those states anymore. When I was a little boy growing up, there was a famous song called, I Love LA, right? You guys remember that I Love LA song? It was such a neat song. Even if you didn't live in LA, you could still enjoy that song. It's just a great song. But I don't love LA. I don't even like LA. When I took my family to Anaheim to go to Disneyland back in the early 2000s, I couldn't get over how dirty the freeways were. Have you seen the signs on California freeways, how gray they look? They're supposed to be green color, and then there's nothing but graffiti and gang graffiti on all the freeways and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I haven't been there in many, many years, but I have a feeling that same graffiti is still there. And then when you watch the TV, it looks like people in New York and California, I guess you guys just come second to criminals. Criminals are always going to be up here and allowed to do whatever they want. And everybody else is just down here and pay all these taxes, you got to be a millionaire to live in California or New York, it seems like. And then in New York, I don't know if you guys remember this, but a couple years back, they were really showing how a lot of people are living in just these really tiny apartments, because apparently $2,000 a month in New York gets you an oversized closet to live in. And I guess I just don't really see the beauty of those places. And I feel like even if you don't live in California and New York, I feel like if you make a choice to avoid those places on your family vacation, that we might actually be able to help the people of New York and California. Because if you would quit
giving them tourism dollars, they would be forced to change something. You know, like Disneyland, you know, for it to bankrupt families, not that it bankrupts them, but, you know, for it to cost on average, what, $2,000 or $3,000 to take your family for a week down to Disneyland, you know, if people refuse to go, guess what? They would have to lower their prices. I think there's something really horrible about theme parks and stuff that just don't care that their prices are too expensive for the average American family to even attend. I mean, if that's not a barrier, I don't know what is. And I'm not a big fan of, you know, forcing companies to do this, that, and the other. But considering California is so socialist and they're so into, you know, taking from people that work hard and helping out criminals that, you know, don't want to try. You know, my thinking is, why can't we get into Disneyland for half the price that it costs? Do you realize that if everything at Disneyland was cut in half, it would still be the most expensive place to vacation with your family? That's scary. Cut that $300 to get into Disneyland, cut that in half, and it's still the most expensive game in town for you to take your family. I think we ought to boycott those states. I think we ought to say, until you fix up your crime for the good people in your states, we're not going. Until you make these prices something everybody in the world or everybody in the country can enjoy, we're not going to your place anymore. You know, Magic Mountain is not that magical to me, you know? And when I went there, I actually liked Universal Studios more than Disneyland anyway. There was a California Adventures theme park right across the street from Disneyland. I know they're probably all connected in the same thing, but I thought that was actually more fun than Disneyland too. But keep in mind, I'm going based on a 20-year-old memory. But even back then, the prices I spent would still be expensive in today's money. So, just crazy. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you think an American tradition like Disneyland and Disney World should maybe get off their high horse and start charging a decent rate for their rides and stuff? When you go to Disneyland, you have to know the secret handshake and how the ride hopper works and this, that, and the other. I remember we would stand in line and literally watch as dozens of people would cut to the front of the line because they had some weird sort of cut to the front of the line pass. Just awful, waiting 45 minutes to an hour for every ride. It's like, God, what a ridiculous, God, that's just ridiculous. I'm still angry about that. Places like that are magical for kids, and to just make it where you know, take their family's bank account balance down to zero, just awful. With that being said, I love Disney. I mean, we all grew up on Disney, right? I just think it's disgusting that they don't care if they are too expensive. I guess that's the thing that really bothers me about the world. People don't really care, you know? I can scream till I'm blue in the face, don't go to these places till they change things up, but it won't stop people. They're still going to want to go to California and smell the ocean. They're still going to want to go to New York and see Times Square, you know? And because of that, things won't ever change. Because people are always going to stay there and never move away, things won't change. So I just have to look at it individually and say, you know, I don't have any plans to go to California or New York, so I guess I'll just keep those out of sight, out of mind, unless they have a fun story like today to share, you know? And I know that whenever somebody loses a life, it's not really a fun story, but the whole idea that criminals are using scooters so that they can go in and out of traffic and get away real quickly, that's really something else. And in a city that probably has a lot of cameras, can I ask everybody the question of, what is the use of all these cameras? We were always told that these cameras would lead to safety and better situations where criminals would get what's coming to them because we have them on videotape. Yet somehow, even with all these cameras, the criminals just go scot-free. They've gotten to the point where they don't care if they're on camera because they know that nothing major is going to happen to them. There was another story I heard, I think it happened in New York as well, where they had a 19-year-old teenager that had a rap sheet a mile long, and apparently he punched a 68-year-old woman that was on her way to the Orthodox Church for her Sunday Mass, right? So she goes to church, she gets hit in the face. Now she's probably frail and probably at the end of her life, where she might have normally lived a long life. And don't get me wrong, I don't even know if she's, hurt anymore. I think she recovered from it, but they show her getting punched from the top of a flight of stairs down to the ground. Meanwhile, the guy takes her purse, and apparently she had $300 in her purse, which leads me to believe that she might have been one of these women, because my mom's the same way, where she'll put her wallet up when she's in the grocery store, and her wallet will be open and it'll have like $200 or $300, in cash on it. Sometimes, not all the time. But I tell her, I go, you're just waiting till one day when someone grabs your wallet, runs out the store, and then you'll stop doing that. And she agreed. She goes, yeah, you're probably right. Which leads me to another question. Why do so many of us have to wait to care about these issues when we're the victim of these issues? I think if you have sympathy and empathy for people, I don't think you have to wait till you're a victim of the crime. Just pretend like you're the victim of a crime and imagine nothing happening to the bad guys. To me, that seems unacceptable, I think we ought to have a good people of the world unite, I don't necessarily think it needs to be biblical and end of the world for it to happen, but why can't good people of all political parties stand up and say, no more? We're not going to allow this anymore. It's not acceptable. How come when a guy punches a woman in the face and takes her purse, how come there's not sort of added penalties onto that? We have these race crimes, right, where if you attack somebody of a different ethnicity, they could tack on like a race crime situation and give you an extended sentence that way, right? But why don't we have a situation where, hey, if you're literally attacking a woman and you're a man and you're attacking her just to, take over her purse or something, there should be some sort of added, congratulations, you win 10 extra years in jail, I hate these stories, and they really get to my heart because, my mom is 68 years old. If you're my age and you're blessed enough to still have your mom or dad around, I think it's disgusting that people look at them as an easy mark, as an easy victim. And then I find it even more disgusting that the government and the local law enforcements in different areas around this country don't do anything about it. Yet what do every year? They ask for more money, right? We need more funding. It's ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as when people say defund the police. Talk about ridiculous. So I guess that's my prayer. My prayer is that one day the good folks all stand up in unison and say, no more. If you allow this, you won't be our politician. If you allow this, you won't be a judge in our courts. If you allow this, you won't be a police chief in our cities. And we need to get rid of these people. If certain people are funded, I never really realized growing up how important funding was. But when you have people like, I guess this George Soros guy, it seems like everywhere he throws his money, bad things kind of happen to the people. I don't think you have to be Democrat or Republican to realize we need to get this money out of the system. When one person can throw money and get people elected, there's something very bad about that, And I know Republicans have big donors too. We need to make it where certain people can't really affect everybody's life. That's just a little too much. And it really makes me feel like we don't live in the same America that I grew up in. I feel like when I was growing up, you knew that the police had your back. You knew that the neighborhood you were in, everybody was going to watch it, collectively. You remember we used to have McGruff, the crime dog, and people would actually keep an eye on people's properties. You'd make sure that your neighbor wasn't being stolen from. I just think that we've become so antisocial that stuff doesn't really happen anymore. And it's tough. There's one of those scamming telemarketers now, and I'm not joking. Every person that calls me is a scamming telemarketer. Well, how do you know that, Jesse? Because my friends all text. We live in this weird world where nobody picks up the phone to call anybody. They just type a little sentence in their phone, right? God, I really think our world is weirded out. We don't communicate with each other. We write text messages. We can't rely on anything to safely protect us. And when I say anything, I'm talking about our local governments and policemen, right? But at the same time, every year taxes go up and the price of everything gets higher and higher. The average 18-year-old cannot afford even a studio apartment. So if you want some freedom from your parents, I guess you got to get one or two buddies to rent an apartment with you. And you know as well as I do, when you start renting apartments with friends and buddies, that's a good way to make enemies out of your friends. It's super difficult to have a roommate situation with friends. It might work out for a couple of months, it might even work out for a couple of years, but there will come a time where you guys decide to move out and never do the roommate thing again. At least everybody I've ever talked to says that, right? We almost all have a nightmare roommate scenario. Okay, so we talked about some negative stuff, but the reality is, if you knew me in person, I really like to talk about the negative stuff for a couple minutes, and the rest of the stuff I like to goof around and have fun. So let's talk a little bit about some more fun stuff. Guys, we're in the second month of our challenge. And the last time I weighed myself, I think I told you guys, I popped back up to 180. So I have it on video, and I'm sure people would like to see it, but for some reason I just didn't want to put it in the edit the last couple days. Not that I'm ashamed about it, but I was really hoping that my loss would be a little bit more than 4 pounds. So if you're feeling that same way, you've only lost 1 pound or maybe no pounds lost, right? Just know you're not the only one. Even I would like that, So it looks like through 1 month, I went from 184, 185, and now it looks like I'm 180 or 181. So nothing major, but have you ever seen those videos where they'll show you what a pound of fat looks like, right? And it looks like this softball-sized gunk, right? All yellow and gnarly, looks like a giant booger. If I've lost 4 of those 1 pound chunks, I'll still take it, And if you've even lost 1 pound and you notice that your clothes are fitting a little bit better, or you're noticing that you're walking a little faster, if you don't mind, maybe let us know how your progress is going. And if you're only 2 weeks into your challenge here, even though I'm 1 month through, still look at it like you're where you're at. You're still 2 weeks away from entering month 2. So again, if you haven't lost any weight, don't stress it. Elaine Bellew, one of my viewers. Elaine, you always say hi and good morning. I want to wish you a happy morning if you can hear me, and I want to congratulate you. You said in the comments that you've lost 17 pounds. Elaine, I don't know if that's just in the last couple of weeks that you've been with me, or if that's something you've been losing over the past year or so, but maybe you could let us know in the comments if you hear my voice today. 17 pounds is just amazing, Elaine. That means that at least 12 or 13 pounds of that is legit. The other pounds could be a little water weight, right? But it might all be legit if you know it's been consistently showing that you're 17 pounds less. If you're doing something special, maybe let us know. If you're doing just what we always do, which is walking, drinking water, and avoiding sugar, then definitely let us know that as well. Can you guys tell the difference in the camera lens at all? Does it look like there's more of a view, more of a, what do they call it, a horizon to see? Does it shake less? Can you even tell? I want to let you guys know that when you get into the second month, which I know Elaine is obviously, right? If you get into the second month, this is when a lot of stuff starts to happen. But it doesn't happen in the first part of the month, it happens in the second part of the month. So just remember, usually when you hit around day 45 to day 60, that's when all of a sudden it's like, hey, I lost 3 pounds for the third week in a row. That's kind of how it goes down. Now, here's where you want to pull out your food audits, guys. If you started off by weaning yourself off of stuff, that's wonderful. But if you're still drinking 2 sodas, we really need to cut that down, right? So we need to cut that 2 sodas down to 1. And so what I'm urging everybody to do is look at your food audit. Look at what you're eating every day. Are you still finding a way to eat some cookies throughout the day? Can we cut that down? Because remember, you don't have to cut it down forever. But if you can just some way, somehow cut it down for the rest of this 90-day challenge, we're talking we can make some real good strides, okay? Now remember, not everybody is in the challenge for, all 3 parts. If your goal is just to continue walking, then maybe you could judge your success on how far you're walking now. If you walk for 20 minutes, that's roughly a mile. And I think there's nothing wrong with just walking 20 minutes each day and getting your mile in. That means over the course of the month, you're in the 30-mile club. Yay! By the way, if we did walk for a half hour with each other every day, that should be roughly a mile and a half, So if you feel like you've done 10, 15, 20 walks with me, and you can do the math, maybe you can put down in the comment section how many miles you've walked with me. So Elaine, in your case, if you've walked every day minus, I think, 3 days you said with me, then in your case, you've walked, oh my gosh, probably close to 45 miles, That's impressive, Elaine. And a lot of you guys have done that. Jamie B, Lupe, you guys have also walked quite a few miles with me. We have a couple people like GL and Lily. Lily, I think you're my Canadian viewer. What do you think of your boys scamming our Clark County, Ohioans into shooting one another with a scam? That's kind of crazy. You never hear about Canadians doing us wrong, or at least I don't. I always look at Canadians as our brothers to the north that are more mellow and usually nicer than we are. And I have a feeling that these scam artists didn't necessarily think anyone was going to die. That's what's crazy. Sometimes when we do bad, deceitful things, bad things happen. But a good thing to get caught, I think, Let's get that guy off the streets. Knowing what I know about Canada and a lot of places like that, knowing our luck, they'll never even put the guy in jail. But hopefully he does get some sort of sentence from it if they can catch him. I know that there's women that do crimes, but the reason I always say he is because, let's be honest, it's like a 90% man thing. If 90% of all the crimes are done by men, I'll accept it, As a guy, it disgusts me. I've always grown up where, there's rumors of, so-and-so hits his wife, so-and-so is, a tough guy, a bad guy, don't cross so-and-so. And then when you meet so-and-so, you find out that, he's not really the toughest guy in the world when it comes to other dudes. It's just he's always beating up on his girlfriend or his wife. Those tough guys disgust me. Because that's not very tough at all, is it, when you're beating up on people that are weaker than you? I think one day all bullies should get bullied themselves, see what it's like, I think that when people can play the role of the victim, it makes it where they never want to do that to other people, That's just like when you're made fun of as a kid. You don't realize when you're making fun of somebody's shoes that they might be really, really poor, I remember there was this kid named David, and we would call him the Caca Man. You've got Superman, Batman, and then David was the Caca Man, And we would laugh, Caca Man, Caca Man, Caca Man. And we didn't realize, like, God, you're giving this kid PTSD, because we were mean kids, you know, we didn't know. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there's much meaner than calling somebody the cockaman, but, you know, we have a lot of people that, you know, when they grow up, they think people are judging them for their weight, or they think people are judging them for their skin color. But when I was growing up, people judged you on if you were poor or not. And nobody wanted to be known as the kid that shopped at Walmart or Payless, right? Nobody wanted that moniker of being the poor kid. And even to this day, it seems like kids that are growing up in poverty, they just have it so bad. You know, their parents always find a way to get, you know, their pack of cigarettes, and always find a way to have their vices in life, but they make their poor kids, you know, live in abject poverty. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being poor. You know, if you're trying hard to put food on the table and it doesn't work out, that's one thing. But if you always have an Apple iPhone, and you always have new shoes, and you always have a pack of cigarettes, and meanwhile your kid has shoes that don't have laces on them, you know, there's something wrong with that picture, you know? Anyway, I'll tell you what's not wrong. What's not wrong is that you've been walking like a champ, and I'm super duper proud of everybody. I can't wait to see you guys again tomorrow. Have a beautiful rest of your day. If you're not going to work, take another lap. Have a great one.